Thanks a lot for inviting me.
All right, I'm just putting it on speaker view and starting the recording.
Yes.
And we'll keep getting people, so I'll also keep letting them in. So the first question I had to ask of you was, we come across a lot of these phrases, tanka, haiku, haibun, and you're an expert in all these different forms of Japanese poetry. So for starters, can you tell us what is, in brief, what is each one of these forms and how are they different?
I can only say it in brief because each one is nearly 400 years old, or tanka is 1,300-year-old art form. So we cannot, it's impossible to go into depth in such a short span, but I can tell you briefly, it is just like dipping your feet in the stream. Is well known as a nature poetry, but people what don't know is that it is a seasons poetry based on seasons, and seasons means change. So it is a poetry which changes with the season, and then the poet just captures one moment and freezes it for you. Okay, and that has its own rules and regulations, because anything Japanese, can you imagine going to a ikebana or going to a karate master and saying, in half an hour or in 1 day or in 2 days, I want to become a blue belt or black belt performer of karate. It is impossible. It's a question of 7 years or 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. Getting that art form into you, internalizing it, and then bringing it out again takes some years before you bring it out. That is what happens in Indian art also. I'm a student of classical music, and my mother would always say, if you learn for 9 years you practice sadhana, dedication before you perform, before you understood the rudiments of that art form, and then it will all belongs to your capacity to innovate, to create, and then to come out and to blossom into a flower. The ultimate, okay? And that doesn't come in the first learning process. You're like a child, you're hungry for knowledge, you're taking in everything, and then you internalize the whole thing and then you bring it. So haiku is seasons poetry. It is the most, the briefest. Imagine writing a poem in 8 words, 7 words, even there are poems in 4 words, which has stood for 100 years. They've not just vanished. Okay, so that own rules and regulations and permutations and combinations, whatever you want to call it. Then comes Senryu. If haiku is about season, Senryu is a sister of haiku, about idiosyncrasies of human beings. It's very popular. You know how human beings can do stupid things and idiotic things and touching things that touch your heart. Everything comes into Senryu. Then you have tanka, which is 1,300 years old. Only from that haiku has come. Okay, and that, if the haiku is changing its face almost every few years, tanka has almost retained the shape. What we write now is what the Japanese were writing 1,400 years back, except the cultural differences of the countries. Then you have haibun, which is prose. When you say only 8 words, 5 words or 7 words, a poem should get over. Here you're given 150 to 200 words. What a lot of words that is in haibun, in haikai literature to play with. And that is flooding the whole imagination of all the people. Haibun. Haibun is prose embedded with haiku. Then you have your rules, how to embed a poem. This is the only poem in the world which has prose and poem together. You have prose poetry, but the whole poetry is like, that whole poem is like prose and like poetry. But here you have a distinct prose, haikai prose, embedded with a distinct poem. That is called a haibun. Then you have renku, which is collaborative poetry, which is great fun when 6 or 7 poets come together or 20 poets come together. We never leave without a collaborative, a lending of voices, lending of cultures. And that again has other rules and permutations and combinations. But The ultimate thing is a mosaic of cultures coming together and forming around 12 verses or 22 verses or 36 verses. You have a renku of 100 verses. Okay, that is again a different art form. But only from that haiku has come. You have to understand that. Then you have haiga, which is artwork with haiku. You have sumi art, the Japanese sumi art. Nowadays, nobody does sumi art. Not many people even do painting. So they've accommodated with photo plus haiku, which is very simple. You take your cell phone and you take beautiful photographs and you're already writing haiku and you put them on, and then there's a huge, beautiful magazines out there who will capture them and publish it for you. So that's about it. It is even telling on the surface, it takes such a long answer. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, Chetan.
Okay, cool. So you've been writing for many decades now and you've won many, many prizes. So where does that drive or that inspiration come from? Is it just the joy of creation, or what's driving you? What's keeping you going?
Yeah, I've been here for the last 17 good years and it's been a treasure journey. Now, what drives me? I thought about this question and I thought I could give some sensible answers, because what drives people? It is the love, the sheer love. But also, what drives a person? What drove Vincent van Gogh to paint those sunflowers after sunflowers? What drove Monet to paint those lilies for 30 years before his death? 30 years he painted nothing but lilies. What prompted Kumar Gandharva, with half a lung, the other 1.5 lung gone in diabetes, at a time when we didn't even know diabetes, we didn't even know streptomycin existed. What drove him to come back and go on to get the Padma Vibhushan? What was that drive? What is it that drives? What is it, the drive that the flower? You know, I've been taking flowers in Chennai. My mother loves garden and flowers. Every morning I go and take some 4 or 5 gardens, flowers, beautiful flowers, because we have plenty in our garden, and send it to her. And she sends it to all her grandchildren and all her friends and all her great grandchildren. And everyone say, "Oh, Mama, the flowers are so beautiful." And she's so happy about it. She's 93. So one day there was no flower at all. And I said, this was just a bud. It was sort of unfurling. I said, it would be better if I just unfurl it slightly more so that I can take a full flower. Selfish reason, because I wanted to send such a flower to my mother. I tried to very gently unfold it. It curled back. They don't open by force. They don't open when a human being touches it. They unfurl on their own. So what is it that prompts me to write haiku? Is something that urge within to create or not create. In haikai, we don't create. In all other forms you create. In haikai, I discover what is already in nature. Okay, that means my 5 senses are open. I'm always in now. And I uncover. I learn the tricks and I learn the knack. I learn the ways of unfolding what is before us, the truth before us. So if I'm alive, if I'm breathing, I think I'll be writing.
Very awesome. So I was, when I was doing the research and I was getting ready for this, I was trying to look at your work online and on Amazon. And I realized that none of your books is on Kindle. All the books are only either paperback or hardcover or like this one, but nothing is on Kindle. So is that intentional?
See, the first one was in 2010 when haiku was hardly known. Katha, you know that they don't go by submissions. They do go by submissions, but they pick their own. And this is the book that is for children. And this they brought out so that the children will know the joy of owning a book and playing with it, and then understanding what haiku is. It just falls into a book again. What fun for a 6-year-old to play with this and then learn that there are paintings inside. Okay, so I didn't ask them, this cannot be brought into by a Kindle because it's impossible.
Yeah.
That was in 2010 and it was so popular, 2,000 copies were sold that they brought it out again, a reprint in 2017. The next book is what you have, Chetan, which is, the other one is the Nad Anunad I brought out, World Anthology. I brought it out in 2016 when Kindle was not that popular with our haiku poets. Haiku poets are the youngsters, yes, but they're also the older lots. A lot of older people who are not very familiar with Kindle, who don't have a Kindle. Okay, in 2016, 2014, we started working on it. 2016, it got published. Okay, 2016, when it got published, I told Vishwakarma, I didn't want it to be a self-publication. I said, you're going to do everything. I'm just going to do the pagination. I'm going to design the pages. So that time, I said, I don't want any royalty because we were 3 editors. I said, you do everything for me and you sell it for me. And they did everything. Okay. That time, he said, what about Kindle? I said, I'm scared about Kindle because here I'm taking page by page. I'm sitting with your designer and designing. I don't want something to go haywire, and I don't think I'm interested then because I didn't own a Kindle. My daughter already had a Kindle that time, but I wasn't that familiar with Kindle, and I was not confident. You know, in haiku, we have something called the indents. We indent a line intentionally. And I play with indents like mad. All my poems are full of indents. Okay. Yes. In Kindle, sometimes, if it's Kindle, if it's a good version, the indent comes correctly. Otherwise, it doesn't. It goes haywire. Okay. So I didn't want to risk it. For me, every poem, for us, every poem, for any haiku poet, every poem is precious. But the time I came to my own book in this book, Beyond the Horizon Beyond, it is for Kindle also, but again, there are plenty of indents. But when HarperCollins came in 2021, and they said we are bringing out it, I think it is in Kindle also, it's available in Kindle. But when I saw the Kindle form, it was very bad. The pages were all warped and everything. The poems were 6-line poems were stuck with us with the next page, and the pages were not the way we had designed it. You know, HarperCollins was so magnanimous to give me one typesetter, and I could talk to that person anytime and work with them page by page and tell them this is how it should be. That is how, and that is how the whole book, this book, okay, was designed. They designed it, of course, but each page, if you say, I have put it the way I wanted it. It is not the way they wanted it. Every page. And then when I saw the Kindle version, I was very disappointed. You know, I kept on dreading it. I kept on dreading that Kindle will not be to my satisfaction. And then I wrote to Prerna, my editor in HarperCollins. I said, I'm very disappointed with the Kindle version. She'd say, we'll stop it for 2 days and work on the way you want it, and then we'll go back to it because we can't take it out of the market. So it was not taken out, it just kept there. So the Kindle version, they promise, is the way the book is. But you know me, I never saw it. Why see it and then go through everything? But if a very good poet from America or London say, I want to buy a book, I said, please get the book version. Because I don't know how the Kindle version is. So that's why.
Cool.
So I maybe, but the next book I'll be, because now there are people who do the Kindle version very well. See, most publishers don't know the importance of indent in haiku world. They're new to this whole thing. They're used to free verse. Free verse, very few people have indents. Otherwise, it is left line aligned. Yeah. The lines just start that way. We give spaces, we give pauses, we give little pause, biggest pause, even in a single line. And those pauses have to be the way I want it. So it becomes impossible in Kindle. I'm hoping Kindle perfects the method, and by next book, I'm able to be very confident in saying that, yes, because Kindle opens out the book to a wider audience. I would like that. Why curtail it to only people who can buy paperback?
Right. Sure.
Yeah. Sure. But my poetry is as precious to me as my children are, and I don't want that to be put anyway across. And I didn't want that. Yeah. I'm not ready for that. Yeah.
Sure. So, talking about your publishing journey, so it's been Vishwakarma, now it's also HarperCollins. And traditionally, we've been told that poetry is difficult to get published, especially with the traditional publisher. It's not an easy, it's not an easy genre to publish. So tell us about that journey. Was it easy? Was it difficult? I mean, how did you get there?
See, when Katha is also equally difficult to get in, but children's book. And when they approached me and they published 18 of my work, but I thought that was just one freak incident. I left it. But otherwise, I did send it to people, but I think it goes into the spam. I don't know. Maybe now things have improved, but I'm talking 2005, 2008, 2009. They were not really, we didn't know, there was no response at all from them, whether they saw I don't remember anybody getting back and saying, we don't publish, we're not interested in poetry. But I know when I spoke to poets, they said the poetry doesn't sell. Why would a publisher spend money on a book which doesn't get them back the returns? Okay, so self-publishing became the norm. In 2010, when Katha picked up the book, I didn't pay a single pie for it. They gave me some copies for thing. At that time, throughout the world, I'm not talking only of India, throughout the world, right from America, everywhere, it was self-published. Haiku means self-published. No publisher of repute would touch a haiku book because poetry is unknown, doesn't pay, haiku is even more. It is a small group of people who know haiku. Now the way it's grown, the world is opened out to haiku. They know that is, Alan Watts says, haiku is the most sophisticated form of literature he knows. Because we know when to stop. Isn't that beautiful? We know when to stop. Yes, we know when to stop. In 5 words, we know when to stop. In 7 words, we know when to stop. A poem is over. And that is not easy. It takes years to understand when to stop. And when you know that, and then you say, like Chetan gave a beautiful compliment, it's a piece of art. Minimalism, brevity. And if you learn this, you know how much it will help you when you're writing your fiction, how much it will help you when you're painting a canvas, a huge canvas. You know what to leave blank, what to paint, what to highlight, what to put in the background. That importance of editing, haiku teaches. I wouldn't say all other things. Like I went and joined the Film Institute of India, FTII, the famous institute in Pune, where Amitabh Bachchan and Jai Badri, everyone had come. And I was that time traveling up and down to drop my children in school, the same road, Law College Road. And I used to say, I knew they were conducting a 1-month intensive course on appreciating films. Film appreciation, it is called. But I didn't have the time. And I knew it was very competitive. They wanted dedicated moviegoers, script writers, writing about films, critics. They wanted such people. They didn't want someone, I was then in music, they didn't want someone, a musician or someone vague, a mother running with children to join their course because there were seats, 750 people apply for that and only 64 people get in. Okay. 2012, my children had all left the nest and I said, now is the time, and applied for it. I only told them one thing. In my submission, I have to say why I want to do that course. I said, I want to understand how kire is done. Kire means the cut in haiku. I'm a haiku poet. Let me tell you honestly, I don't know much about films, but I know that film producers use the film directors and producers and they know how to cut a long reel of 350 hours into a 2.5-hour movie and still continue the story. I want to know how they do that. And I'm hoping this 1 month of intensive training or whatever you say, course, will help me to understand that cut that is given in haiku. And when Aarti Kathanis was in charge, when she came on the stage to announce the 64 people, she says, Kala's the only one who said she wants to learn how producers cut and stick the film to make one, and not interested in writing about films or not interested in writing a book or taking a film or taking a documentary. She's the only one. So I don't even know what your question was, Chetan. I think I've gone off into my own world. What was it?
My question was about publishing and how easy or difficult was it to get traditionally published?
Oh no, see where I've come. For 14 years, I waited for a publisher to come along because I was not into self-publishing. Because self-publishing, I know people take it in their bags, and every time they meet lovers of haiku, they say, will you buy my book? And I didn't want to do that. Because when we force a book on somebody, they never read it. It's only when they go and buy on their own, they read it. Even after buying, they are stored in the thing saying, I must read it, I must read it. So 14 years I waited for my first book. 17 years, HarperCollins are poems collected for over the last 16 years. And that around 500, 600 poems, I chose the best, which I think I thought. And then I had some 4 or 5 very good editors. In our world, we just help each other. There's no payment, there's nothing. I'm an editor of 3, 4 magazines. I've not taken a single pie for it. Hours and hours I work over. It is all done for sheer love, because when we edit, when we comment, we are learning our own artwork. We are simply pays me, but the others don't pay me. But I still work with the same dedication. Then 17 years it has taken HarperCollins, and HarperCollins just picked it up in a matter of 8 days. It was sheer cakewalk. I mean, I can't even believe on 24th of November, I sent 26th of November, I sent it on 4th of December, I get a mail from the main editor saying we're interested in publishing your book, and we're paying this much for it. It is unbelievable. When we have given 40,000, 50,000 to a publisher, asking them to publish it, and then he says, okay, for that 40,000, we'll give you this many copies. Then we go again selling it. So self-publishing is also very close to, the vanity publishing or whatever is happening now, because publishers can't afford to put that amount of money. I'm not blaming them at all, but we have some very good publishers now for poetry in India who are doing very well.
Right.
So it is a tough call, but you can wait and keep sending, or you can publish your first book and then on that you get the second and the third call. There are so many ways of going about it, isn't it?
Sure. All right, cool. So, well, I'm really excited about one thing that we are going to do together, because we are doing what we are calling the Himalayan Haiku Immersion, which you are going to be leading. That's in end September. But when I was reading the program that you shared with me, and and a lot of the people here are participants. So you've seen my workshops, right? You come in,
yes,
we do 9 to 5, and then in the evening you might have some homework, but you'll sit and drink, and we sit and chat, and you enjoy the sunset. With Kala, she's planned something which is very different and very new and very unusual for me as compared to our normal workshop. So Kala, tell me, why are you thinking about? You gave me a hint actually when you said that haiku is not just about poetry, but it's about nature, and it's not just about nature, but it's also about the seasons. So that kind of made sense now, saying, oh, okay, now those things come together. But tell me a little bit more about what you're planning to do in that, and what led to that kind of a program structure.
Yes, this is something I do in a larger scale for SIMBI students, for undergrads, for 60 hours, spread over 4 months. Now in three days, which is very minimum, that's what I told them, 3 days is too minimum, but I would have liked 5 days, because that is the type of immersion I would have loved. But expecting 5 days, which means 1 day to come in, 1 day to go out, it becomes one type of poetry, which might be too much. Know that they love nature, unless they tell the truth. Like in when we say, what is God? What is your consciousness? What is that Atman in you? What is that self in you? They say neti, neti, neti. This, not this, neither this, no this. They keep on layers and layers until the core of stands together. Okay, that one we're talking about in haiku, this thing that everyone would want to even try. It is living in now, living in understanding that I am a small speck in this cosmos. What in front of me is as precious as I am. So if you understand that concept, and that is what we try to get into haiku, and in haibun, and in every, this is the base. The base is the interconnectedness in the interpenetration of the self into the cosmos. I mean, that is something that, why has COVID happened? Because we have mistreated nature to such an extent that they are taking vengeance on us. 3 long years, they've made the whole world not move, touch with each other, being in touch with each other. A small speck, we can't even see it through a microphone. I mean, my magnifying glass. That small organism has seen to it that we have split. We don't even touch each other. So what is it? You pay respect to Mother Nature. You pay respect to our lives. You pay respect to that each breath. It's only during COVID we know that you have to pay money for a cylinder. Otherwise, for years and years and years, we've been taking oxygen like nobody's business. Not even thinking about all this. So haiku makes you a sensitive person. Haiku makes you a nurturing person. Haiku gives you everything that you want to know what this life is about. So if you say, every person in this world should become a haiku poet, so they understand all these that makes a person say, I'm alive. Yeah.
When you say every person in the world, I'm thinking of Donald Trump trying to write haiku. Somehow it doesn't work in my mind. But anyway, that's an aside. But what Kala is planning is like, there's meditation sessions. There is something called a ginkgo walk.
Ginkgo walk, yes. Ginkgo walk. See, the Japanese have got everything into a module, into a beautiful model. Like if 10 people get together, we conclude with collaborative poetry. Like every morning, when 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, I've arranged 8 festivals in India, when we all get together at 6 o'clock in the morning, if it is nice weather, 7:30 in the morning, if the weather is very cold, we are out for a nature walk, which is called a ginkgo walk. 1.5 hours we walk. We see what the beauty of the ginkgo walk is. 20 people are walking in silence. We are completely, our senses are open. We come back and we write poems. And you say, hey, I saw that, but I never thought of writing it into a poem. Hey, we went on the same walk. How are they bringing so many different perspectives to that bird call, which I couldn't get? So what is happening is, you start noticing in a ginkgo walk how poor our observation skills are. We start noticing how much more we have to pump to become aware of our world around us. And that is introduced on 2 days. Then we have the stargazing, because what are the cosmos and the stars and the moon if we can't write about them? So Chetan said we'll be having drinks and all that. I'm a teetotaler. I'm not going to be there to say, don't drink. But I would say, just listen to the stars. They are conversing. Talk about it. Write a poem tomorrow or tonight. You go back to your room and write about the stars. And what haiku is about. It's that felt moment, putting it down in the 20 years when you read it, you said, did I write this? Did I get into so much into that feeling of oneness with nature?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, cool. Folks, so we are done with our Q&A. We're going to skip that one question, the Anunath question in
yes, because I think I've answered it. Yeah,
but we'll move.
No, I'll quickly say that every poetry, you can write about anything, but haiku becomes an experiential poem. What you experience, you write. I've not written any poem on snow because I've still not experienced snow. Okay. It's as simple as that.
Well, if
so
the workshop is in January,
is very
maybe
Indian. Very Indian. Even this book is very Indian because that is what we've experienced. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. So first question is from Renu. She's asking about haiku and free verse. So how do you see those two sitting together? Is there a kind of, how would you compare them as art forms?
I don't know free verse. So I'm the last person to talk about it. And I don't want to talk about it. But what I've heard and what I've read in school, because in school we've studied free verse. Free verse, nowadays, the blank verses or the modern verses, are very much show, don't tell. But the older verses were bombastic. They use language, skill to overpower the reader, to say, wow, okay, haiku doesn't. Haiku is a simple poem. It is, I always say, it is, would a 6-year-old be able to read your poem? Yes, that is haiku. But will a 6-year-old understand that poem? No, it has got layers and layers and layers of truth behind it. So that is haiku. So how can both match? I don't see haiku becoming, nowadays haiku are becoming bombastic words. They use words that you have to go to Google to read and learn and study. Haiku is not about those words. Haiku is about the simple. It's called the wordless poem. The verse is not called the wordless poem. It's called a wordy poem. Wordless poem because drop off. What hits you? And what stays with you is that image, and that grows on you into layers and layers of your interpretation. Simple words, a 6-year-old child will understand and be able to read. That has layers, and that is haiku.
Okay, great. Renu has a question here saying, what publishers do you recommend for poets? I know of 2. I can start with those. There's haikuWALL
Yes.
and there's Red River.
Yes, I could recommend the same too.
Are there any others that you would add?
See, Vishwakarma, my first thing they do have, but I don't think they have a division for poetry as such. So if you're sure about your poetry book, then you can go to them. But if you're expecting people, editors to sit on your poem and work on it to make it better, I don't know if they're capable, but Red River, I think might be capable of that. But there are many other, like I told you, my first book was in 2010. My second book was after 14 years. I started in 2005. 14 years was Vishwakarma. And after that, 17 years, HarperCollins. So I'm not very much into that, but many of my friends have brought out from many small firms, smaller publishing, which are doing very good work. They put good paper, they put good quality of printing, they do everything, but I don't know the intricacies of the money matter. I don't know whether they're taking money for it because I'm not gone into them. Even the author's press is there, but I don't know whether they take money for printing your book. So I think the best is to go search online and then write to the person and find, but the way I went about it is the old style. I don't think the new person is going to wait for 17 years for their first book. I don't see that happening. The first year, second year, they want their book, but they are prepared to do the self-printing, vanity printing as it's called. So do that, and then the second and the third book, other publishers might pick up. Cool. It is not that the first itself, you have to hit the top slot. You start off, and then you climb.
Great, thank you. Richa has a question saying, while writing fiction, I always struggle to describe nature. How can I improve on this by reading and understanding haiku?
Yes, you will definitely understand how to write about nature through haiku, because haiku is seasons poetry. Seasons keep on changing. You know, Basho, Issa, Busong, and Shiki, the 4 masters, and then Shioni came, a woman. They were all Buddhist monks. They were all Buddhist monks, means you're traveling, you don't have a home of your own, you're traveling, you're begging for food, you're seeing the fruits and the seasons, change of the seasons. You know, I'm in warm clothes, and now winter is set, spring is setting. I need loose garments. You know that. You are completely in tune with nature. And we are not in the nature now. We are in the closed egg-seized rooms, but we do go on holidays. We know how to create in tune with nature, and that will definitely do. Haiku will, I can tell that truthfully, haiku will help in any type of writing, because you know how to connect to nature, you know how to tell the truth, you know how to tell fiction in a truthful way, in a way that is acceptable. You know how to bring the minimum focus, what is important in your story, instead of getting into all those ramifications and all those unwanted things. So everywhere, I tell my Symbi students, undergrads, you have a 2,000 word presentation. You know how to bring it to 800 words. Haiku will teach you that, and you'll have everybody's concentration on you when you're presenting that, instead of going all the way around the bush. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Sheetal has a question. I've recently started writing haibuns and haikus. I want to join a critique group to understand where they stand and to improve. So do you know of such a critique group, and would you suggest one?
I'm very happy. Welcome to our fold. I hope you don't run away because it is demanding. Now, critiquing is something that you do. How did I learn? We didn't have workshops. Now I've been taking workshops left, right, center. Okay, when we did workshops that time in 2005, and all I did was to send my poems to the editors. I chose very good. There are hundreds of journals out there. Okay, you choose the very best, where the editors have been for 20 long years, 15 long years, and they are respected in the haiku world, in the haibun world. We call it the haikai. Okay, in the haikai world. Okay, you send it to them, and when they accept it, you know it's the best. All my books are poems accepted by the best of the editors. So I didn't have to worry about the quality of the book poem. I just had to see how to arrange them and how to do them. Okay, so critiquing is something that you have to sharpen. And how will you sharpen critiquing? I always tell them, when I see a photograph and I say, oh, nice, and I go to the next photograph, I'm not really using my faculty at all. But when I see the photograph and I say, why is that color so gaudy there? Why is there no white over there to give that negative spaces? When I look at it critically, critical appreciation is what I call it. Symbi students have one question on critical appreciation for 20 marks. Okay, critical appreciation, not appreciation. Critical appreciation, where you're critically looking at a poem and you're saying, this is not there, this is not there, this is not there, this is not there. And then when you write your own poem, your mind tells you, hey, you missed out this, you missed out this, you missed out this. Won't it tell you? Because you've inculcated those critical ways of looking at another's poem, which is very easy. They always say when you point one finger, remember 3 fingers point at you. We miss out the 3 fingers. We're only pointing at the other's mistakes. It's so blatant to us that they made a mistake somewhere in that poem. If you inculcate this 3 fingers pointing at you, that is critical appreciation. The 3 fingers pointing at you will tell you where you have gone wrong. You don't need an editor to sit on you and say, oh, you've done this mistake, you've done this, oh, spelling. You know, how many people send me, I'm a publisher, I'm an editor, how many people send me poems with spelling mistakes? I mean, we can't be so blind or blissfully unaware because our Google thing underlines a word in red. You're overriding that and then still sending it to your editor. So critical appreciation is something like Hemingway said a beautiful quote. He said, I don't know whether I'll remember it correctly. One of my favorite quotes I used to, but I've not used it for a long time. Every writer should have a built-in shit detector. It's not the actual quote. If you just go and search for it, you'll find every would-be writer or something like that should have a built-in shit detector. We don't know. We think what we have created is the best. And then, of course, in haiku, we have something called the forums. We have the workshop, which is very important. That 3 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours of workshop, 2-day workshop will unfold so many things which you will take a year to understand in the haiku world, because it's very subtle. Can you imagine looking at karate chops and then saying, I'll learn the karate chops? You need a guru, you need a master to teach you how to do the karate chops. And then you can say, yes, I will improve on it with seeing the video. But seeing a video for reading hundreds and hundreds of haiku books will not get you to the subtleties will not make you understand the subtleties. So that is why I say a haiku workshop is important. And after that, we do have groups and groups and groups of haiku enthusiasts. When we post a poem, they tell us where we've gone wrong. But they keep on telling us where we have gone wrong. We never improve. It's like going to a Vedanta class and they keep on, Swami Chinmayananda can keep on saying Dvesha and Raga. Understand the difference between Dvesha and Raga and come to equanimity. We can keep on listening to it. throughout the Bhagavad Gita classes for 10 years, we can listen to it. Unless you go, I mean, my path I'm saying, unless I went to Vipassana, which is a Buddhist type of meditation led by Goenka Ji, then I understood what is Raga and Dvesha and what is to not react to both and to maintain my equanimity. That is Vipassana. Okay, so you need that face-to-face contact with a person who has gone through that method.
Okay, great. Richa is requesting if you can recite a couple of poems. We'll close with that. A couple of other things. Sheetal has asked, is it okay to use Hindi words occasionally?
Of course.
Okay. Yeah.
We use all types of languages, but I always tell my students and I always tell my colleagues also to use one Hindi or one Sanskrit or one Tamil word, because India, I'm a Tamil. If I use two words, even the half the Hindi, half the population in India won't understand my poem. Yes, there are Google, but remember, if there are two Japanese words in a 6-word poem, there are 2 words which are Japanese. I'm not going to waste my time Googling. I'm just going to go to the next poem. You lose one reader.
Okay.
So 1 word is okay, but not 2 or 3 words. It's too much.
Right. Okay. Then there is Ram has mentioned Speaking Tiger used to publish poetry. Not sure if that is still do. This is the answer to the previous question. Also, writers workshops publishes poetry. Lee has dug out the quote from Hemingway. It says the most essential gift for a good writer is a built-in shock-proof shit detector.
Yes, yes.
This is the writer's radar, and all great writers have had it. So
beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Foolproof
So why don't
detector.
we close your part with a quick recitation of a couple of your favorite haikus, Kala?
And yes.
Then we'll talk
and
about
one thing, yes. Thanks, Chetan. See, one thing is we don't call haikus at all. 100
yes,
haiku, 100 haiku.
I stand corrected. Haiku.
Yes. No, I'm telling everyone. So don't even go out of this thing. And she said, oh, she spoke about plenty of haikus. No, there's nothing as haikus. Each poem stands for itself. Okay. Haiku, tanka. I wrote a couple of tanka. I wrote 100 tanka. She didn't even like one. I wrote just 2 and both were accepted. You know, understand? Tanka, haiku, haibun, renku all stand for itself. Now, I'll just quote 1 or 2, which I mean, you know, you write so many that you can't learn it by heart. It just happens. But one is Morning Raga. A honeybee attempts to waken the bud. Morning Raga. A honeybee attempts to waken the bud. So what am I saying? It's Morning Raga. I can be a music student or someone who knows Indian music. It's a morning raga. Maybe she's listening to the radio or singing or humming, or I'm referring to the bee, which is a morning raga. A honeybee attempts. So am I saying the honeybee is attempting to sing? That is the second line. But the mind is so fast to say, what's she saying? Is attempting to sing the morning raga? No, the third line is to waken a bud. You know, buds are closed. And the honeybee understands you cannot bully it and push it and bump into it to open. Maybe it's singing a serenade, going around, buzzing, saying, when are you going to open? When are you going to open? I'm waiting for you to open. So morning bud, a honeybee attempts to waken a bud. Okay, the other one was in Shimla, when we had gone nearly 20 years back. So it is called a memory coup. Hai means taken from, Hai is taken from Haikai no Renka. It's all huge histories behind it. And coup means verse. So it's Haiku. So we also call memory coup, desk coup. So when we give a prompt, say, write something on trees, that's a desk coup. On the desk, you're going to write haiku. So desk coup, memory coup. So this is a memory coup. From 20 years back, I went gone with my children, and they had taken a seat in the train, and both were sitting on either side. My son and my daughter wanting the window seat as the train goes down from Shimla downhill. Okay, the Jawans came at the last moment, and they said, "Please, this is reserved for us. Please go to the next compartment and the next bogie." And the next bogie was completely filled, and we just stayed back. And they said 45 minutes, and then 45 minutes for the train to come up, and then the train will go down. The same train goes down. You have to wait for 1.5 hours more. could see my daughter was 11 years and my son was 13 years. You should see the disappointment on their faces. Okay. That is what I thought I got. But 15 years later, when I became a haiku poet, the first poem that I tried was this. I tried and tried and tried because I was new to the whole art, and ultimately it was published in The Heron's Nest, which is one of the best journals in the haiku world. Dense fog, early morning, 6 o'clock we were at the station at Shimla. Dense fog, the train evaporates into a distant horn. Dense fog, the train evaporates into a distant horn. You know, when trains go down, they give a horn because they don't want people to cross the railway station saying, I'm going to pick up speed. Please don't. That's where they honk. After leaving the station, after some time, they'll all honk. Okay. Dense fog, the train evaporates. Then you say, how can a train evaporate? Yes, it can evaporate. When it goes into the fog, it's evaporating. It's not there. No, I'm not saying that. The third line says, dense fog, the train evaporates into a distant horn. You see the two senses, I see and I hear in matter of 12 words. I go to the market to buy potatoes is 12 words. How can that be a poem? And the same 12 words here, it has that cut I was talking about. Dense fog, cut. The train evaporates into a distant horn. It's two images joined together, so to tell a fuller, better story. Yeah, that's about it. I don't think I want to say anything more.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's been,
thank you.
An amazing
People have said it's stunning. Yes, haiku stunning. It is, every one of you can write that. Make it a stunning work. Yes.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again, Kala. So I wanted to take just 5 minutes and chat with everybody here about how the writing is going, and just come back to the tracker and spend a few minutes on that. So I can see a few people are really moving forward. Neil is moving at a very rapid pace. I think 8,000 odd words. Same for Nupur, and Lee, of course, is way ahead of the rest of us. Shravya, I was a little concerned. Are you there? Are you with us today? Because I know you have a target and I know you have a deadline. So I'm wondering if you're here and if there's anything we can do. So from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to start posting the writing prompts every day, so that that will also help you folks along. What we are talking about in terms of a total right now is about 77,000 words that people have written. What usually comes to light is that that some people may not have updated the tracker or whatever, but 77 is what is showing at this point in time. So yes, Richa, what I will do, I just saw your question. What I'll do is I'll add your name to it, and then you can also start updating your own ad count, your word count, and then we can go from there. Lots of people are really inspired by you. Michelle, Namrata, Nilesh, Kala, I'm coming back to your session.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yes. So yes, so we will. So did anybody want to share anything at all? Did anybody want to talk about the writing, or where you might be having a good time, where you might be struggling? Folks, if you want to have a conversation about that, we can have a quick chat. Also about this idea for writing prompts, I had an idea saying we could make it contributory, where I could appoint every one day I can ask one of you to post writing prompt. Will that work better? Because otherwise, I have to dig out all the writing prompts. Of course, I'm looking at shirking from some of the work, but I'll always have a backup. But so discussion, ideas, any thoughts folks have? Or anybody wants to talk about writing and how it's going? Ram, yeah, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I think contributory prompts is a very good idea. So what we could probably do is you start with one person. The person gives the prompt and then names the next person who will put up the prompt the next day. So that way the load is also not on one person. So we could try something like that.
Okay. So let me start by tomorrow. I will put a write prompt and then we can probably go from there. a couple of things about writing prompts. That's a great idea, Ram, as always.
You're very kind.
Ram is the guy who, by the way, started off the idea of writing prompts in the first place. And he did it voluntarily on his own, and he did it for an entire month, if I'm not mistaken.
You know, what we do in Haiku is we keep a prompt for 1 week.
Okay.
1 week, we say only 1 poem or 2 poems per prompt. But there are so many poets doing, but I say for every poem you write, you have to give comments on 2 other poems.
Okay.
So we are doing 2 things identically, simultaneously, one writing and one is critiquing.
Okay.
This critiquing will help you to write the next poem better. So
Okay.
it's a 2-edged one. So 1 week, one person gives a prompt and all the poets write for that prompt. But the minute they post their prompt, they give their feedback on 2 other prompts, 2 other poems. So what happens then? Then the interaction becomes very united and it goes. But I don't know how you do, Chetan. I don't know how you, because we do it in our website. So it's possible to have an interactive website.
Yeah. Well, we have a large group here, and everybody's really shooting to finish their drafts. That's the goal of the first draft club.
Oh,
That's
yours you can't read. You're right, because it's a huge draft. Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
so what I think we'll stick with is we'll stick with 1 prompt a day. We'll take Ram up on his idea of I will start off tomorrow and I can nominate somebody for the next day, and that person then nominates somebody else, and then it can just flow from there. So that can work out well. Michelle, actually what you've mentioned is what I was going to say is, in my experience, picture prompts work quite well, but anything which is repeated for too long becomes a little boring. So if it's a picture on 1 day after 4 days of word prompts, it's nice. But if it's like 5 days of pictures, then it's like probably get a little boring. So having some variety in the prompts is nice, but picture prompts do definitely work well. But that's if you are able to find some really evocative picture prompts, not just not just everyday kind of pictures. Now, will this be in addition to your project, which I was asking? So the purpose of the writing prompt is to, sometimes you feel stuck, or sometimes you feel like there isn't any movement happening. So the purpose of the writing prompt is just to give some direction, a theme on which you can start writing. It is can it be from your project? Will it normally be outside of your project? I think for most people, the writing prompt piece may not be with your project, and then you come back to your project because at least you've got the kind of ball rolling, so to speak. But yeah, if anybody else wants to add their experience, by all means do that.
Yeah, can I just ask a bit more about what we are expecting from the prompts, because we're simultaneously writing as.
So firstly, I'll answer that. Firstly, it's optional. You are completely within your rights to completely ignore the prompt. If you're on a roll, things are going well, you don't feel the need for an external push, just don't even look at the prompt. It's fine. The prompt is for if you feel like, okay, maybe I'll think on a slightly different direction. Maybe I'll, react to a different stimuli, and that will charge you up as a writer, or that will get your, that will get the juices flowing, the creative juices flowing. That's what the prompt is there for. It's not a requirement. You don't have to turn anything in. You don't have to, it's not an assignment. So don't make it a load. But it's a tool available for those people who might want to break out, or who might want something new or something different to work with, just to kind of release the pressure, or to go in a try a different creative angle. That's what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
So yeah, no pressure on this. It's not more work on you guys. And if your own writing is moving along well and it's doing good progress, just ignore the prompt altogether. Okay. Any further questions? Otherwise, we'll call it a day. We are at 6 o'clock. So next weekend, we are going to have Ajay Jain. Ajay Jain is a contrarian, to say the least, because he's gone and opened 5 bookshops in Delhi in the last 2 months. And these are not like small nukkad bookshops. These are 2,000 square feet, large stores in big malls, in GK, in like mega city mall. It's just nuts. It's completely unexpected. It's the last thing you expect anyone to do. is to start opening bookshops across Delhi, and 5 bookshops in 2 months. So it's a little,
Wow.
it's fantastic. But at the same time, it's very interesting to have a conversation with him and ask him, boss, what are you thinking? What's going on here? Because clearly he sees something that the rest of us don't. But he's attracting amazing talent. He had Omir introduce his book recently. Day before yesterday, Dipti Naval was there at a Kunzam store. His chain of stores is called Kunzam. He had Dipti Naval, talking about her memoir, which has just been released at one of his stores. So he's getting a lot of attention. He's getting a lot of press. He's getting a lot of people, interesting people to come into his stores. And I'm going to be visiting one day after just to understand. I've just come back from the mountains, so I'm in Delhi now, as you can see. But I'm planning to visit one of his stores just to go and check them out and see what's the idea, what's the concept before we have a conversation. So yeah, so I'm excited about next Sunday as well. And yes, all the best for everyone for their writing, for your all writing in the next in the next week, and we'll catch up on Sunday the 17th along with Ajay Jain. And before that, if you have a chance, look up Kunzam bookstores. So yeah, we'll go from
Lovely.
there.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Chetan.
you again,
and
Kala.
thank you
It's been an
everyone for
absolute
being
pleasure.
here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll share the link to the workshop that Kala is leading in the WhatsApp group.
Yes.
So if anybody's interested, you guys can join. Yeah. All right. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chetan.